Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum. Very good day to all. So welcome to my presentation for the SAIS 2023 conference. So the topic of my presentation is rational emotive behavior therapy and person-centered therapy, comparison between two counseling theories. So for the purpose of this presentation, I'll be comparing two main theories in counseling, which is REBT and also PCT. So as an introduction, rational emotive behavior therapy or REBT is a theory that was developed by Albert Ellis. So according to Corey, the theory is based on the assumption that human beings are born with the potential for both rational or straight thinking and irrational or crooked thinking. So between both of these sort of rational and also irrational thinking, humans have a choice whether they want to choose either one. However, REBT does not actually share the same philosophy with Rogers' person-centered theory. So a central idea behind PCT is that the individuals has within themselves vast resources for self-understanding, for altering their self-concept, basic attitudes, and their own self-directed behavior. So it means here that with REBT, people have potential whether they want to choose straight or not. But with regards to PCT is a bit different because humans have the ability to do it for themselves, not between these two dichotomous sort of way of thinking, but rather to develop their own self-concept and also to have their own sort of self-directed behavior so that they'll be able to have self-improvement. So it can only be achieved when there is a definable climate or facilitative psychological attitudes that was provided by the therapists themselves. So the therapists play such a vital role because they play the main role in terms of the client being able to change themselves. So here are some of the techniques that is used in REBT. So according to Ellis and Ellis, that it is very multimodal in terms of the nature of the theory itself. So there are three main techniques that can be used in REBT: the cognitive techniques, the emotive evocative techniques, and also the behavioral techniques. So let's just talk about one of the techniques, which is the ABC methods of disputing. So this is one of the main techniques that is used with REBT. So irrational beliefs are challenged by investigating the truth or factual reality behind it. So for example, if there are fixed belief that is untrue, that is held by the client, it is the responsibility of the counselor to challenge those fixed beliefs. So for example, why must I perform well? Where is the evidence that I must be approved by significant others? So for example, if some people, they have this tendency where they need to get 4 flat or they need to get straight A's for their exams and all that. But in life, sometimes you don't achieve that. So rather than thinking in a dichotomous way, there must be room for gray areas. So why must I perform well is asked to the client themselves so that they be able to rethink whether if they are unable, for example, to get 4 flat or straight A's, at least they'll be able to accept it more rather than it being, if I don't get 4 flat, I'm a failure. In reality, they're not a failure because they have tried their best in order to get the best sort of results for themselves. Meanwhile, in cognitive behavior therapy, Corey mentions that there are no real discernible techniques that is used, as the focus on the therapy is on the attitude of the therapists themselves. So as you can see, right, with regards to REBT, there are intervention or direct interventions that is being used by the counselors themselves. But in person-centered therapy, it is not the case because it reflects mainly on the attitude of the therapists themselves in order for them to be, whether they are able to have congruence, unconditional positive regard, and also empathy. So some of the attitude here refers to the counselors themselves, such as their ability to do active listening, reflection of their feelings, clarification, and also being there for the client. So the main technique in person-centered therapy are the therapists themselves. Alright, so let's talk about the final section, which is the strength and weaknesses of each theory. So some of the strength of REBT includes that there are the REBT itself is actually very, very comprehensive, and it also is highly effective in terms of how it is being used in the counseling session itself. Okay, so that's one of the main components that stands out with regards to RBT when compared to person-centered therapy. But of course, there are also weaknesses. For example, there is a weak empirical support with regard to some of the techniques that is being used in RBT. So Alice actually admitted back in 2011 that evaluation on the effectiveness of RBT is not comprehensive, especially when compared to something such as cognitive behavior therapy. So cognitive behavior therapy is one of the best evidence-based practice out there. So when you compare cognitive behavior therapy with RBT, definitely RBT is less rigorous in terms of its empirical support. Meanwhile, here are some of the strengths and weaknesses of person-centered therapy. So the strength includes the importance of empathy in the therapeutic process. So it's very vital for the counselor to show empathy towards their client so that they'll be able to have trust in their relationship between the therapist and also the client. So empathy plays a vital role in facilitating constructive change within the client themselves. Meanwhile, some of the weaknesses may include the possible danger that could happen to the clients when the therapist remains too passive and inactive in the counseling process. So one of the drawbacks of person-centered therapy is that it's pretty, it does not have any discernible techniques being used. So it can be quite passive, whereby the counselor is merely listening, although it is active listening, and also doing a lot of reflection. So there are no direct techniques. So the problem could arise when the client may feel like the therapy process is too passive. So to conclude, it could be said that both theories are vastly different in terms of its approaches. However, both theories can be used to help clients in counseling process. So correct utilization of both theories in a therapeutic relationship can help aid clients' progress towards self-actualization. So that is all from me. Thank you very much, everyone. Assalamualaikum.